put BNE, balance and equilibrium, with eyes open. Okay, I'll put EO, eyes open. Is everybody clear, folks? That's one complaint. What about if I have a pressure sensation complaint? Balance with the eyes closed. It will go here. That's also balance and equilibrium with eyes closed. Is everybody clear, folks? So there are 3 locations in the spinal cord white matter where finally all the sensation goes in there. Is that clear, folks? It's the same location on the other side too. I'm doing everything on one side. Go ahead and copy this.
Dr. Rowe, can you remind me what PNT was?
Pain and temperature.
And B&E is
balance and equilibrium with eyes open or eyes closed.
I just have one clarification. When you know how you said the nerve opens up and then it goes to sensory and motor. So the dorsal root ganglion is in sensory only?
Yeah.
It's not like, I thought it was in the beginning and then it split out.
No, it's not.
No.
200% guarantee. It's only on the sensory. This is a schematic that the one I show you is a schematic diagram. That's not the right one. Why do we call it dorsal root ganglia? Because it's in the dorsal root. Okay. And I'll give you one more symptom about this. What virus do you know that stays on the dorsal root ganglia? Shingles, right? When the shingles comes, it gives you sensory problem or motor problem? Yes or no? It gives you sensory problem only. That also explains dorsal root ganglia only for sensory, because if they were to be in motor, the patient should have some movement problem, isn't it, folks? All right.
Dr. Roy, so if you have the dorsal root ganglia for the sensory, then what do you have for the motor?
There's nothing.
Nothing.
When you come out of the office, do you meet a security guard again? No. Okay. So only needed when we enter. So one student asked, what about ankylosing spondylosis? You know, when you were doing about the bone, right? Vertebral bone. Think about, folks, ankylosing spondylosis is just a fibrosis of the vertebral bone. It's not doing anything to spinal cord. Only problem with them, flexibility. They cannot bend and do stretch. Other than that, they have no problem. Is that clear, folks? They're just like stiff people. That's all it is. There's no pain.
So I've seen people have shingles on the face and they kind of lose, like it almost looks like they had a stroke. Is that so? Is that
shingles happens? See, when it happens on the face, they are affecting the cranial nerves.
Okay, that's fine.
Cranial nerve is completely different than the way of a spinal cord, because cranial nerve is one nerve. There is no spinal cord. There is no dorsal root ganglia, right? That's why. So whatever we are learning on the spinal cord is below the neck, folks. Above the neck is completely different. So in shingles that affects the face, they have a Bell's palsy, what we call, because they're affecting the nerve that's responsible for both. Because in facial nerve, we don't have a fiber sensory and think they're all mixed. That's why. So when I am talking about the spinal cord, whatever we are doing now, below the neck, because your body is controlled by 2 different people. One person control the face and then one below the neck. So that's why the neck is the key, folks. Whatever we are learning for the first 2 days is below the neck. All right. Is everybody clear? So far, so good? Nobody's lost? Okay, good. Now, once the complaint comes, right? So now I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to erase this. Oops. I'm going to divide this into actually 2. Okay, there's a 2 place. Think about, folks, if I am having a balance problem, the balance of the body is managed by your legs or your hands. Does that make sense, folks? It's either your upper extremity or lower extremity. Now, when you come to particularly here, I'm going to put here C and G, for example, fasciculus cuneatus and gracilis. Okay, so there's 2 names. Cuneatus is for upper extremity, gracilis for lower extremity. So it's the same balance and equilibrium when the eyes are closed, but we need to be a little bit more specific. Is your problem in the upper extremity or your problem is in the lower extremity? Is that clear, folks? Now, how do you remember cuneatus is for upper extremity? The way I remember, what do we call in anatomy for this? It's called cephalic, isn't it, folks? Cephalic start with C. Which one is closer to your head, your hand or your legs? Your hand is closer to it. So upper extremity closer to cephalic. So C for gracilis, upper extremity. Is that clear, folks? So cuneatus is for upper extremity. Gracilis is for lower extremity. So when the signal goes, it will go appropriately where it needs to go. Does that make sense, folks? All right. Now, all the sensory complaint is sent to their own department. And this is where imagination is important. This is a slice like this, right, folks, on your spinal cord. Now we are going to start tracks from each of these locations. Is everybody clear, folks? So the tracks will be going vertically up. Are we clear? You cannot see the tracks in human body. There's no way to see it. Okay, so those are the tracks. So now we're going to learn from pain and temperature. You start a track. It's called spinothalamic. You start a track from a pain and temperature. It's called spinothalamic. Look at the word spinothalamic. That means it's going from spinal cord all the way to thalamus. Is that clear, folks? So if I ask you, what is the function of spinothalamic? What do you tell? Pain and temperature. Nothing else should come out. Only pain and temperature. Is that clear, folks? And from balance and equilibrium, eye open, you're going to start a track. Spinocerebellar. So where does it go? From spinal cord to cerebellum, not cerebrum. Cerebrum is brain, cerebellum is in the back. So it goes to the cerebellum. So cerebellum is responsible for balancing when you are walking. Should make sense. Okay. When you have a problem in either cuneatus or gracilis, we start one track from here. I'm just going to write here. That is called dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. That name doesn't make sense because they have their own way. Okay. We call it dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. That is for your balance and equilibrium, pressure, vibration, and everything, folks. Okay, with the eyes closed. So how many tracks we talked about it? 3 tracks. All these 3 tracks are ascending tracks, which means all of 3 are sensory. Should you incorporate any motor function in here? No. All those 3 tracks are pure 100% sensory. That's what's called ascending track. Okay. Those 3 tracks are ascending tracks. Is everybody clear, folks? I'm going to talk about these tracks. Once this track goes to the brain, and go to my drawing again. So all those 3 tracks, right? All those 3 tracks, we could name all the 3 tracks. It's going to go to the brain. Whether it's a spinothalamic, spinocerebellar, or dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, it doesn't matter. It depends on the complaint. They're going to go. Here, the brain going to communicate from the precentral, and they're going to execute a function by descending track. Is that clear, folks? The descending track is called corticospinal tract. Okay. It's called corticospinal tract. Look at the word corticospinal. That means coming from cortex to the spinal cord. Is that clear, folks? That track comes right here. That's a location for that track. It's right next to spinocerebellar. Does that make sense, folks? This is what we call corticospinal tracks, corticospinal. Now, keep in mind, there should be no communication between these two, okay? They're just sitting next to each other. That's all it is. Now, corticospinal tract, is it motor or sensory? It's a motor track. It's coming down, descending. It's motor track. They are bringing a signal. They are bringing information to execute. They communicate from here to the anterior horn. Because why? Corticospinal tract is bringing a message to move my hand, isn't it, folks? It's bringing, so they come to anterior horn. From anterior horn, motor fiber carry the signal outside all the way to my upper extremity, so I could contract a muscle, so I could move my hand away from the hot coffee. Is that clear, folks?
So Dr. Wright, when we say posterior sensory and anterior is motor, that only refers to the gray matter. So in the white matter, anterior could be sensory or motor.
You don't use the word anterior or posterior for white matter. It's only applicable for gray matter.
Thank you.
So now, if I were to give you a little
Dr. Roy,
recap.
I'm actually lost with the corticospinal tract function.
Listen to this example, it might help you. So let's say I'm holding my coffee. The minute I touch my coffee, my free nerve ending felt it. Is that clear, folks? That free nerve endings was picked up by median nerve. Median nerve went all the way to my cervical spinal cord. They enter the posterior horn. From posterior horn, they send the signal to pain and temperature area. From there, my spinothalamic tract is carrying my pain and temperature. It's actually temperature. So it's carrying the temperature to the brain. Brain says, okay, you are experiencing a temperature. We need you to move. They send an execution by descending tract. That's your corticospinal tract. That corticospinal tract comes right here. And from there, there's a communication to anterior horn. From there, the signal goes in the motor fiber. The motor fiber again comes on the median nerve. It contracts my biceps muscle and some of my flexor muscle so I could move my hand. That's all it is. It happens in milliseconds. Okay, that's exactly how the signal goes up and down. So corticospinal is a descending tract. They carry information brain to spinal cord. But when they come to spinal cord, somebody had to fill them into the anterior horn, so that goes in here. Is that clear, folks?
So is there any specific signals that this corticospinal tract carries, or it
Motor
generally
function.
carries everything?
Motor function, not everything, motor function. It cannot carry sensory, it's a motor function.
Dr. Can you please repeat the part? I understand where you go from top. What's the connection between going from ascending to descending? Can you explain that one more time?
You see here, it goes to the post-central gyrus. Post-central will connect it to pre-central. From pre-central, you start corticospinal tract. Have that diagram, everybody here. Okay. Then I move the hand slowly. Don't ask me how I move it slowly, because pre-central communicate with basal ganglia. Is that clear, folks? You have the diagram, okay? Very careful. So that's how it works. All clear? Any question here? Because next we're going to talk about tract. It's even more complicated. All good. Everybody's oriented so far to time, person, and place. Okay, good. All right. So that's that. Now what we're going to do, we're going to learn all the tracks. So far, 4 tracks you have to learn. So to list that, you have 3 ascending track. 1 is spinothalamic, 2 spinocerebellar, 3 dorsal column medial lemniscus. Is that clear, folks? These are all ascending track. Ascending tracks are sensory. Then you have a descending tract. That's only one, corticospinal. That's a motor function. Is that clear, folks? Medical students are lucky. Totally, you have to learn only how many tracks? 4 tracks. In undergraduate human anatomy, we have 36 total. And we need to be able to draw and name all the 36. Now, can I remember the 36 now? Hell no. I didn't recall for a long time. I could barely name 15. Okay, that's how much it is there. There are so many tracks in between each of them, but these are the main, right? So for medical students, all they need to know only one motor track, but there are so many. When you become a neurologist, guess what? You need to know all the 36. Okay, so that's the idea. Now, what we're going to do now next, we're going to learn about each of these track, how it goes to the brain. Is that clear, folks? You don't need to know that, honestly, for step 1, but I like to teach it, so when we do brainstem lesion, it makes it a little better. Okay, so the step 1 will never ask you where the track is going and stuff, because they expect you to know that. So when you do brainstem lesion, so I'm going to teach you so this way you know it. Give me a sec first before I do my drawing, because I will erase and do again. So wait for me. Okay.
I had one question.
Mm.
So, before starting this course, I was looking over the Kaplan books. They have like the spinal, like the cross section, and each of them are differently shaped.
Mm.
So does the pathway, the track that we learn, do they change according to those the vertebra, the cross section?
No. So what happens is, you see here this picture. This is a sample picture of a cross section of spinal cord. The design changes from C1 to L5.
Mhm.
It has enlarges and it comes down. It's just basically getting thin and thick. That's all it is. But
So
nothing else
the
changes.
pathway would be same, right?
Pathway is exactly same. Like, for example, if you go to thoracic anterior horn is more thicker, like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, actually, in undergraduate human anatomy, they will give a cross section and we need to tell which layer is it. So if it is thicker, that's thoracic. So there's more, but we don't need to know for step 1, but just the basics. Now, go ahead and copy this. So this is a spinal cord, and these boxes are other structure. It is a schematic diagram just for understanding. This is your midbrain. The actual midbrain don't look like that. It's just a schematic diagram, okay? And then this is pons, and this is medulla oblongata. I didn't name the top one because there's a reason for that. And I'm gonna do, this is a intervertebral foramina. You guys know that, okay? So that's your sensory and motor from intervertebral foramina. Okay, copy that. Make a big copy, okay? It's a big one because we're going to add multiple tracks on one picture, so don't make it too small, so it will be confusing. So midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, these are called brainstem, isn't it, folks? Okay. All done? Everybody's done, okay? Now, the first pathway, wait until I finish, then you draw it, okay? Because if I make a mistake, I will erase, and so you will have to also erase, so don't do that. First, I'm going to talk about actually dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, folks. How it works. So you have a sensation coming in. Okay, let me divide this into two. Okay, this is one side, the other one is other side. Okay. Now, let's do this. So complaint comes to the posterior horn, and they found out that complaint is about either upper extremity or lower extremity with balance and equilibrium, eyes closed, positions, vibration, proprioception, all those problems. So the complaint will go to this location. Is everybody clear, folks? From there, we are creating a track. That is your dorsal column. The track goes all the way up. And in medulla oblongata, especially the upper part of the medulla oblongata, they cross to the opposite side. They cross to the opposite side and goes all the way to the brain, folks. So that's your brain. Okay, I'll put B here. That's your brain. Now, if you see, this is how the signal goes from dorsal column. So which means anything that happens on the right side of the body will go to the left side of the brain. Is that clear, folks? Because the tracks are crossing. In Latin, we call decussation. Decussation means crossing, folks, okay? So dorsal column starts from the right side. In this particular example, goes to the medulla oblongata, crosses to the opposite side, and they go to the brain. So all my right side, proprioception, vibration, balance and equilibrium, when the eye is closed, they all go to my left side. Is that clear, folks? If I have the left side, it will go to the right side of the brain. Clear, folks? All right. I'm drawing one side. You assume the same thing for the opposite side. Clear? Okay. So that's dorsal column. Now, to pay attention, in medulla oblongata, they cross on the upper part of the medulla. There's a reason behind it. Okay. Now you could go ahead and draw that. And you could name that track dorsal column, you know, somewhere you name it, wherever you want.
Doctor, does it happen simultaneously, like both right and left happen at the same time?
In the same time, yep.
Sorry, Dr. I just want to make sure too, the O at the right-hand side, what does that mean?
Which one? Oh, no, this is intervertebral foramina here, both sides.
Okay.
I just drew it and left.
Sorry, you said it was in the upper medulla?
Yeah. You see, even when I crossed it on the upper part, isn't it? Okay. Because there's another track that crosses on the lower part, that's why.
Dr. Roy, the location where it goes in the brain, is it important as well, like ventral, posterior, lateral, all the nucleus?
It goes to postcentral gyrus. Now, where it goes in postcentral, we'll worry about that later. But the track, all the sensory track reaches postcentral gyrus. Okay. So that's dorsal column medial lemniscus pathways. Everybody clear, folks? So all my right side body sensation with that particular track goes to the left side of the brain. And left side of the body will go to right side of the brain. Clear, folks? Okay. So that's easy. Now, only thing that I will pay attention, that track goes this way. Okay, just to kind of keep, it goes this way. Next track, we're going to talk about spinocerebellar. Okay. Now, let's see, we'll use a different color. So let's say a complaint comes. The complaint is about balance and equilibrium when the eyes are open. So the complaint is sent here. So that's where your spinocerebellar location, isn't it, folks? So we're going to start a track. What is that track? Spinocerebellar track, right? Going from spinal cord to cerebellum. So in this particular example, this will become cerebellum, folks. Okay, this will become cerebellum because I wanted to use that as a cerebellum. It goes to the cerebellum. Oh, I could even make it easy for you. Cerebellum, let's add a structure here. We have a cerebellum here, and this is still brain. Okay, let's add a cerebellum. If I added this side, don't ask me if there's one on the other side. Both sides should have it. It's bilateral. Okay, oh, okay. So that's cerebellum. Now the track is going to go all the way up, and it will go to cerebellum. What did you notice in this track? Did this track cross? This is the only track in the human body that does not cross. It doesn't cross. It goes straight to the same side, isn't it? Right side went to the right side, right? What do you know about ataxia? What does ataxia mean? Say it, you could talk. What is ataxia? Ataxia means loss of balance and you are falling, isn't it, folks? Remember, ataxia is always ipsilateral. We never use the word contralateral. What does that mean? Ataxia means people is falling toward the same side of the lesion. Does that make sense, folks? You cannot use the word contralateral ataxia in medicine. It's not right. In medicine, ataxia is ipsilateral. Why? Spinocerebellar tract doesn't cross. If you have a problem right side, it goes to the right side. If you have a problem left side, it goes to the left side. Is that clear, folks? This is the only track in the entire medicine that doesn't cross. Okay. So that's spinocerebellar tract. So it's easy on the exam. Whatever the side patient is losing balance, that's the side the problem is in the brain. Is that clear, folks? All right. Malia, any question? Sensor is still intact? Okay, good. All right, folks. So are we clear with spinocerebellar? And so far, it's easy track, right? Straight and it doesn't cross. Straight and it does not cross. Now, the next one we're going to have to talk about is spinothalamic. That's a little complicated one, folks. Okay. Now, unfortunately for spinothalamic, I cannot use this diagram. It requires a different diagram, folks. It's all same, but the spinal cord, I need 3 spinal cord sections for an example. So you could go ahead and replicate another picture, exactly same for midbrain and everything. Just a cross section of spinal cord have 3 pictures. Okay, so I'm going to do that here. Everything else is the same, just a 3 pictures, folks. Okay, let's say. Everything else is the same, but I need 3 cross sections, folks. Cross section. I'm gonna try to do that. That's that. Okay. 3. I need 3 of those folks. Okay. Now each of them has their own intervertebral foramen. One side I'm showing. So the nerves will come. They go to their side. Okay. Of course, they have their own nerves. Okay, just to understand that. Okay, you have that. Okay, I'm going to list this: T10, T11, T12. I repeat this. I just put T10, 11, 12 because I like T10. It could be any spinal cord. It could be C1, C2, C3. It could be T1, T2, T3. Don't memorize this. This only happens in T10, 11, 12. It could be anybody from your box, okay? It could be L1, L2, L3, anyone. I just like T10 to T12. Now I will also write this is the pain and temperature location, isn't it, folks? Agree? That's where the spinal cord pain and temperature. Both sides I have stress. No, this one will make it a little better. My spinal cord looks like polio, which I checked. Now, this is the actually I get stressed to teach this because it's very hard to explain. So let's take this right. Don't write do anything. Pain and temperature is coming at the T12. Okay. So T12 dermatome is carrying a pain and temperature. They come to the posterior lobe. From there, the signal goes to the one location. It's a very few. Are you guys following me? From here, it goes to T11 pain and temperature location. From here, it goes to T10 pain and temperature location. Right at the T10, it crosses opposite side. It crosses opposite side and travels all the way to the thalamus. Okay. It travels all the way to the thalamus. Now, let's break down that track. If you see, when it comes to spinal thalamic, two things that's important. Number one, they cross at the level of the spinal, which means before it even reaches medulla, it's already crossed. It's a clear case. So it crosses. Number two, it always goes two segments up and then crosses to the opposite side. Okay. It's an anatomy. That's how it is. Okay. So T12 crosses at T10, for example. So the fiber that enters the T11 will cross the T9. Does that make sense? It always goes to segments up and across the opposite side. The last thing to learn, where that crosses, there's an anatomy name for this area. Anybody can type it up, that area. There's an anatomy name for that area. What is that area? Type it up. That you should know, folks. Not the name of the disease, anatomical name. What do we call an anatomy? This area right there. It's anterior curvature. That's anterior curvature, like that. So what is the key? Spinal thalamic processes and anterior curvature. Is that the case? Now I could do the drawing bilateral, let's see. So here also, it comes here. I tell it comes their own location. It goes here, and it goes here. They cross to opposite side to go up. Is that clear, folks? Bilateral. So all of my T12 and temperature crosses at T10. Is that clear, folks? So my right side and temperature is eventually on the left side of my. Are we clear? Now why do you need to know? This is important because there is a disease that happens in the central canal here. What is that disease? Sphingomyelitis. When the sphingomyelitis happens, it is destroyed by spinal tract, which means that person cannot feel any temperature at T12. Is that clear, folks? They cannot feel anything. Why? Anytime there's damage to T10 this area, you know the fiber that comes in T10, they actually belong to T12. Is that clear, folks? So anytime there's a lesion in two segments, below. Okay. So that's we'll come to that later. But this is how spinal thalamic tract goes up. So it crosses at the level of spinal cord. And it always goes two segments up, and then there's also a process at the anterior curvature. Is that clear, folks? All right. So go ahead and copy now.
So Dr. Pain presents the patient at T10.
No. Pain doesn't present at T10. So if let's say if my T12 has a problem. So T10 has a pathology. The sphingomyelitis is destroying the fiber crossing at T10. We know that T10 fiber is actually belongs to T12. So which means in T12 dermatome, we would not feel any pain and temperature. So they don't present with it, they actually absence of pain and temperature because that fiber is disconnected, they cannot carry anymore. Okay. So if let's say I cannot feel the pain in my umbilicus area, let's make it up. If I cannot feel any pain in my umbilicus, what dermatome is that? That's T10. So my T10, I cannot feel it. Where do you think the T10 fiber would have crossed? T8. So there must be a disease in T8. Is that clear, folks? Okay, it's 2 fibers up. So you lose the sensation when there is a lesion. So that's spinal alarming. Now, if I ask you what happened to T11, no problem, because whatever the track that crosses the T11 has no issue. Is that clear, folks? What track do you think crosses on the T11? That's responsible for L1, right? That's responsible for L4. That's not affected. So whatever the dermatome, because think about, folks, if sphingomyelia is destroying T10 anterior commissure, that crossing at T10 actually belongs to T12. Why did I say T11 is intact? Because T11 will cross at T9. That's not affected. Is that clear, folks? Anybody still have issues?
So you're saying disease in T10 would mean a loss of sensation in T12.
That is correct. 2 segments below. Okay, so that's spinal alarming. So that take care of all of your 3 sensory fibers. Is that clear, folks? Okay. Now we'll go to this picture. Let's finish up with the last track, corticospinal track. All right, last one. So the way corticospinal tract works is a little different because why? It starts from the brain and it goes down, right? So we're going to do it upside down here. It starts here. Okay. It starts here. We're going to go all the way down to the middle of the medulla. And in the middle of the medulla, they cross to the opposite side. Now, where am I crossing? I'm crossing the bottom part of the middle of the medulla. Okay. Bottom part of the middle of the medulla. And once it crosses, it goes to their location. Their location is right there somewhere. It's next to spinal cerebellum, right? So it goes to that. So that track is going this way. So the track that comes from the right side of the brain controls your motor function of your left side of the body. Is everybody clear, folks? It's always okay. Now, from here, it will connect to the anterior horn because the signal has to execute, isn't it, folks? It connects to the anterior horn. From anterior horn, they will go through the motor fibers and then go to the peripheral. That's how corticospinal this is done. That's how corticospinal is done. Now, there's a special name where this track crosses. It is called pyramid of medulla oblongata. Pyramid is a unique structure that found in medulla oblongata. In fact, the idea of medulla oblongata, looking at pyramid, is a clear folks. So, in medicine, have you heard the word extrapyramidal symptoms? where you hear that? Which section or where you come across those extraterrestrial symptoms? These studies in psychiatry, where psychiatry is so many. Extraterrestrial symptoms are side effects of antipsychotics. What are those antipsychotic symptoms? Motor function, isn't it? Isn't it what goes by spinal practice? Motor function. That's extraterrestrial. Okay. So anytime you go to motor function. Okay. That's what it is. So that's pyramid. That's where this is process. So that's what goes by. Is everybody clear so far? Right. Now, the last thing I want to know, even though I'm telling you this is brain, this is cerebellum and everything, right? You must know before anybody reaches the brain, they still have to go through the thalamus. You remember the drawing, folks? Okay. They have to go. If you Google dorsal blunt,